Director at St Andrews College and a part of the University of Sydney. It is my pleasure to welcome Sue to speak with us today. Sue Ellson is an independent LinkedIn specialist, an author, educator, practitioner and consultant. Sue provides teaching, training, speaking and consulting services to individuals, businesses, schools, universities, associations and the government. Sue is an author of 5 non-fiction books and has been largely active, engaging in continuous professional development since completing her studies in 2000. Please welcome Sue.
Thank you, Bonnie, and great to be here. And I'm open to all sorts of questions as we go along, and you will be getting a copy of the slides, and if for any reason you don't get them, please let me know, because I'm more than happy to pass them on. So just a tiny bit more about my career background. I started work 6 days after my last Year 12 exam at Westpac in Adelaide, doing a lot of different roles in the bank. Moved to Melbourne, got a job, found out I was pregnant, got sacked. Took me 6.5 years to recover from that. But my first website went online, newcomersnetwork.com, in 2001, and I joined LinkedIn on the 21st of December 2003. So I'm member number 77832. So how many people in the room were thinking this is just going to be LinkedIn? Only a couple? Good, okay, because it's not just LinkedIn today. There's lots more than just LinkedIn. So you can download my 5 books if you'd like, and you feel free to share this presentation with anyone, anywhere at researchgate.net, and all of my past presentations for Educate Plus are also online, and this one is already there as well, so if you want to download it off the website and make notes on it, you can, and of course you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. So these are all the fabulous things I'd like to go through today, and I'm going to give you sort of a broad picture of employment, recruitment, retention kind of thing first, and then remind you about the recruitment process. So I was involved in recruitment with Westpac, both entry-level recruits and the graduate recruitment program. And before I was allowed to even step foot in the recruiting role, I had to do training. So I find a lot of people now in recruitment didn't do any formal training, which is a bit of a concern. So I want to just remind people of the value of that. Also looking at what you need to have on your school website, because after all, that is the only thing you own. Everywhere else is borrowed land. And I get a lot of results in AI as well as in LinkedIn and in Google search, and that's because I publish so much content on my website and elsewhere. And then of course, when you onboard new staff during their tenure and when they leave, and then there's my summary of recommendations, and don't forget to stay connected with Educate Plus. So hopefully you'll come away with lots of digital strategies that you can use to attract and retain better quality staff. And hopefully you'll share some stories as well, because I'm sure there's plenty of people in the room who would value your experience. So the first report I've got here is from Deloitte's on the 2025 Global Human Capital Trends. And the statistic that I've pulled out of here is you need to have the right data. And one of the schools I was working with recently told me they don't do any performance management whatsoever. Their role is education, not performance management. And that, yes, I can see you shaking like I did too, because when I was back in my Westpac days, we actually were able to assess the quality of our applicants. This is before a lot of tech that we have now, and we were able to determine that our best quality candidates were friends and family of existing staff members. They were the best performers, their best longevity, and it was just a really good fit all round. And I still believe that kind of process works. And I'm a huge, huge advocate, not of working from home, but working close to home. And so anything where you can engage more with the community and people don't have to travel miles to get to work, I believe is really, really valuable. So basic on your right data, both with internally and externally, balance inclusivity with decisiveness. My son got a job in a call centre. He applied one day, he was offered the next day, and the following day he started, and everything was organised. I mean, those call centres, they've got it worked out. It is fast, and that's a really good candidate experience. And then when he got there, he said, oh no, I want a desk that's higher, and I wanted this. Oh yep, no worries. and they brought all that in as well. It was unbelievable. They've really got it nailed. And then the next thing is making sure that decision making is done at the right levels. So what often happens, there's a big nod there, can you tell me why you've had something go wrong? Are you willing to share or not?
Yeah, I just think that sometimes inherently when you're a smaller organization, senior management make a lot of decisions, but as you grow
Yes.
and they have additional responsibilities, if they continue doing those sort of admin tasks, it sort of
Yes.
increases the whole recruitment process.
It definitely does. And the other problem, because I do a lot of work with candidates, you know, looking for their next career opportunity, because I'm quoted on media for being a career expert, and the experience in the recruitment process is fine, and then they get to meet the manager they're working with, and it's disastrous. You know, they're asked all these inappropriate questions about, do you have children, you know, do you have other responsibilities, etc., etc. Yeah, and so you've got to be really careful on that one. So that's a report from Deloitte. That's just one little snippet from there. This little report is from the Manpower Group on what employers are looking for. And the key takeaways that I thought would be good reminders for everyone in the room are to create HR strategies that segment the demographics, focusing on what your business needs from the younger through to the more mature. So obviously a lot of enterprises spend money on training younger people, but they forget to train the older people. And this is a real problem because the younger people leave and the older people stay, and you've just spent your money on training the young people, which it just doesn't make any sense to me. So keep that in mind, invest in that reskilling and upskilling. Don't forget also that some of those older staff can mentor the younger ones, and particularly, I know this is not an area in education, but when you've got a lot of staff working from home, if they're younger, they don't get that sort of automatic learning that they get when they're in the workplace. And the third one is prioritising the culture and creating work-life balance. This is what most people want. And my daughter last year was working in a job. She'd been there for over 5 years, and then she got another job because she never leaves a job before getting a job. You know, that's the benefit of having a mother like me. And then 2 weeks later, what she was sold was the job was not it. She was told it was business development, but it was sales. And so she's ended up starting her own business. But I knew that she wouldn't be able to go straight from working full-time to being in her own business. It's too much of a mind shift to do that. And she got a temporary job through Sidekicker at Oxford University Press, and she just took a casual job there. Then a 4-day-a-week job came up, and she said to me just last week, "Mum, I would never ever go back to working 5 days a week ever again. It is just so much more beneficial for my mental health because I can have a life." You know, she had a wedding to organise, there was all these other things that happened, and that 4-day work week, and there's lots of data to back this up, that people are more productive, less sick leave, less expense. So if there's some way in the education system you can encourage people to work the 4-day work week, I'm sure you'll all love to go back to your managers and tell them that. I heard at the conference I need a 4-day work week, but look, let me assure you, it's the big ticket item that people are looking for. They're looking for that flexibility. Now, all of us are interested in money, and the 2025 Hayes Salary Guide is warning us that there is a huge increase in the number of applicants sending off those AI-generated resumes. And I'm sure you've all seen them, and I'm sure you're all sick to death of them because they're not suitable, and often they're lower quality candidates who just, you know, press the button, press the button, press the button. They haven't tailored it for the role. I mean, it's not a good experience. 2/3 of professionals are planning a move in the next 12 months, but they don't go waving the flag and saying, "I want to get out of here," but you know, they're secretly looking. And matching the talent is technically becoming harder. But still, that most valued employee benefits in this Hayes Salary Guide, so it's not just in education, it's more broad, is the flexible working and having additional annual leave. So I presume a lot of people assume in a school environment you're going to get more leave, but that is obviously something that people value. So then when you go into the attraction and retention factors from this report, you get the number one being good work atmosphere. And I'm sure we've all been in environments where we've thought, you know, this is a good place to work and this is not. And going back to the story of my daughter, she is working at Oxford University Press in a very basic role, so well beneath her capabilities while she's starting her business, but she is happy to travel an hour and a quarter to go there because it is so much better than the other places that she has worked in. So sometimes don't assume just because somebody has a long commute, if they love the atmosphere and the job, sometimes they're quite happy to do that. So it's something else to keep in mind. But then again, there's the work-life balance initiatives, the benefits package, career development, and so on. Now, are any of you members of the Australian Human Resources Institute? Only one, two? Okay. I'm a long-term member. I'm in the RE Hall of Fame. I was on the Victorian Council. I used to run the International HR Network in Melbourne. We were the most successful network in the whole of Australia because I'm like a dog with a bone and I make people come to things. But there's a huge amount of free research available on their website. So even if you're not a member, you can definitely do that. Also, they have a great mentoring program. So if you know any students of HR, then definitely I would encourage them to consider that. Now, they have a quarterly work outlook. The most recent one came out in September, and it shows the recruitment is robust and 2/3 of employers are planning to hire. Apparently now is hiring season. So Brad Entwistle from the School Marketing Journal podcast interviewed me 2 days ago. I messaged him and said, oh, I've got this thing I'm doing at Educate Plus, would you be interested? He said, yes. So that's coming out next Thursday, I
Could you
believe.
repeat some of those details?
Yes, okay. It's called the School Marketing Journal.
Okay, thank you.
It's by Image 7, Brad Entwistle, and the episode's coming out next Thursday.
Thank you.
So feel free to subscribe. It's also designed for heads of schools. You know, most of the content he publishes is for heads. So anyway, back to this is, so it's hiring season, and even though there's going to be job losses, there's still going to be hiring as well. Now, Educate Plus has a salaries and conditions survey, and the 2026 one is coming out. So this report is from the previous one. You might be interested to know the median base salary for advancement professionals in Australia is $107,500, which is, I think, pretty good. And in the last survey, they said, oh, sorry, did you want that slide back? Somebody tried to take a photo then. Yep, it's on the Educate Plus website, and you just put that code in and you can download the PDF. And Mandy's doing a video on there as well, so you can watch that. But more respect, understanding from teachers and colleagues. So obviously there's a little bit of a disconnect from the advancement professionals to the teaching professionals in schools. So anything that I can suggest today to help you with that, please let me know. And the final one, this is from seek.com.au. I'm sure many of you have advertised positions on Seek, and it's important to include the salary in the job advertisement. And you might say, but we have a policy of not including blah, 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 blah. Well, the scary thing is 72% of applicants find it frustrating if the salary is not included. Some people will not even consider it because they've got no idea what the ballpark is, and you could get amazing people from another industry with lots of fabulous transferable skills. But the scariest one is 25% will not even apply if the salary is not listed. So I realise that you're going to be accountable for it, but now that we've got the Workplace Gender Equality Agency asking us to report on salaries and genders in workplaces, I'm lobbying them to get age included as well, so that all organisations have a mix of ages, but definitely think about that as an option. Now, the next thing that is on the Seek website is this Laws of Attraction tool, and what you can do is what I did, and you can say industry, education and training, location, New South Wales and ACT, and these are the benefits from 218 respondents of things they want if they're looking for a role in education and training. And again, work-life balance, salary and compensation, working environment. Those three ones are the top ones again. So you've got to be able to convey this message really, really well in everything you share about the roles. So I would like to firstly acknowledge the traditional owners, but also the schools do not want to be seen to be pinching people from other schools. And I get it. Like, it just doesn't, it feels icky. It really does. But then when you can't find someone, you ring up a recruiter, you pay thousands of dollars, and what do? Pinch someone from another school. So I'm not advocating this, but I was contacted by a recruiter to do a job in a school, and of course it got nowhere because they ended up hiring someone internally, and I'm sure they were grateful for that, so they didn't have to pay the recruitment fee, which is substantial. And yeah, so I'm going to try and show you some of the techniques you can use to sort of find those harder to do candidates, so that you might not have to pay a recruiter for those services. There's a guy next door who lives next door to me, and he is a recruiter, and it took him 6 weeks to find a candidate once, and he did the normal search on LinkedIn, he'd advertised the position, he did all the phone calls, still couldn't find someone, and by the time he read, you know, call this person who knows that person who knows that one, he eventually found the candidate, and they did have a LinkedIn profile, but there were no details on it. And so this is what many of you are up against. If you're searching on LinkedIn for a potential candidate, they haven't got all that information filled in. So that's why that building your networks and getting those referrals is still really, really vital. So I would like to make sure, as I said earlier, that you have a fair and equitable process in your recruitment. Do you ask all candidates the same questions? Do you write down the answers? Do you review them all equally? Do you look at the applicants without the name on their resume or LinkedIn profiles, so that you really are not unconsciously biased towards somebody who's not of a similar background? These are things to think about. But also, do you have a consistent process? So I'll just give you these personal anecdotes. My son was driving to a job interview one day, and he ended on the up ramp to the Westgate Bridge, and he hadn't been driving very long, so he stops the car, rings me, "Mum, what do I do? I can't drive over the Westgate Bridge." He was trying to go down to Port Melbourne. And I said, "Well, look, I can't come and help you. You know, if I drive there and I get out of my car, I'm not going to be able to do anything." So I rang Vic Roads, and they said, "What's his number plate?" And they zoomed in on the camera, and they could see where he was. And he said, "Would you like me to talk to him?" I said, "You go for it." I'm thinking, I'm his mother and I can't convince him. I don't know how you're going to do it, but anyway. And so I said, "Look, the only way it would work is if two people came in a car and got in your car." And the guy from Vic Roads said, "Yeah, no worries, we'll send a truck." So 2 blokes in a truck went to my son's car, one got in, "G'day Pete," drove him to the job interview and off a side road, so we didn't have to go across the Westgate Bridge, and said, "See you later, mate." And Peter was at an interview for a part-time receptionist role, and there were 14 candidates there. Like, that is the most ridiculous, yes, recruitment process I've ever heard of. Why would you have 14 people group interview for a part-time receptionist job? Like, ridiculous. And so I don't ever want you to waste 13 people's time, because that's just crazy. In my view, your recruitment process should find the 6 top candidates, you should interview 3 and pick 1. And if your process does not revolve around that sequence of numbers, you're wasting time, because every person you interview is hours and hours worth of work. So make sure you've got this system in place. Also, do you have internal data on the most successful past hires? Where they came from, how they've been performing, how long they stayed, and how much it cost to get those candidates into the organisation. And do you ask for feedback and review your recruitment and selection strategies every 2 to 3 years, and make sure that everybody is kept happy? Some research I did for Newcomers Network was that the success of a move to a new location was largely based on their first impression on arrival. So you've got to make that first impression, the moment they've come to you for the first time, it's amazing. Meet them at the gate, if you know they're coming. Like, that was a problem here we had. People just don't even turn up for interviews. So in that case, I'd suggest do video interviews first for a very short period of time to make sure that you've got a sense that the candidate can show up. And in what sort of time sequence are these stages completed? Now we all know with a senior hire, it's going to take a lot longer, but obviously with some of those regular recruitment processes, it should be a fairly quick and smooth transition. So what do you need to have on your website? So I've been publishing online, as I said, since 2001. And why is your website so important? Because generative AI is scanning your website, and that's the content that goes into AI about your school. It's also what goes into Google for your school or Bing for your school. So I'm shocked to see a lot of schools still have all the jobs listed on one page and then linking to the website, the ad on some other website. I would suggest that every job has one page on your school website with all the details on it. And then you promote the school website link in all of your pitching and networking and gathering of referrals. Does it reflect the working vibe? So none of the schools I looked at, did they have a video? Hi, welcome. You know, you're considering a position at our school. We're most well known for A, B, and C. And you know, during the recruitment process, this is what's likely to happen. And we value random applications every so often, or no, we only have the positions available and only apply if there's something that's relevant to you. You know, like what is your recruitment process? Put a video on there, which would also be on your YouTube channel. So people going to the school YouTube would also see it there. Google expects you to have a home about contact and privacy policy pages. Make sure it's search engine optimized. So when I was working in real estate, we were in Camberwell in Melbourne, but I listed all the suburbs in the local area across the footer of every page of the website. So if you said our school or our university serves people from, you know, these suburbs, then you're more likely to come up in those suburb results, and that could help your school. And are all the details correct? Is there a principal's message? One school's website had a message from the deputy principal. Somehow I felt a bit cheated by that. I don't know. Like, I know principals are nervous, but why would you put the deputy principal up? It's, I don't know. Like, anyway. Also, on Peter's website, Peter's at the back of the room. He's one of my clients as well, and we're at the spectrum analysis stand. I have individual pages for each staff member. So there's a group page, and then, so the principal might have a principal's page, but then would have the name of the principal in the URL on a separate page. So every time somebody Googles that principal, then the page of the school website comes up that's just the principal information. And that's going to help you in search engine results too, particularly if you've got a well-known principal. So, you know, and any other staff who feel comfortable about it. And just to show you that link on the website, what you'll see is we've got the team, and Peter's got a much more comprehensive one. But if you could just go to Van, she's one of the GIS analysts, and we just say what her qualifications are, when she joined, she's been promoted, she's primarily doing that. After hours, you can find her running, swimming, or singing karaoke, connect on LinkedIn, and the details. So I'm not talking about you know, sharing what they had for breakfast, but this sort of thing looks, you know, really nice. Obviously, with Peter, it goes into a bit more detail, but also, if anybody decides to Google Van, and I haven't done this before on this computer, in Sydney, we'll see if it comes up, but there's her website page in search results there. Her link, no, it's probably more for Melbourne because, you know, Google knows that she's in Melbourne. But this is what happens by creating this page on the school website or business website. You
For
get that
all
coverage.
staff or just?
Well, again, a policy decision as to what you would do on this, but any time that person is Googled, it's going to come up and showcase your school. So it could be another way to get your message out there, and could be a good marketing technique. All right, let's go back to the slides. Come on, Mousy. Okay, now on social media, I'm shocked at the number of schools I look at and they only use LinkedIn for posting jobs and nothing else about the school. And that's not a good look either, because you know, there's plenty of stories you can share on LinkedIn. In fact, I would say most of the general stories that are on your Facebook or Instagram you could also put on LinkedIn. Bearing in mind that anything that goes out on the school page is less likely to travel as far as if a person shared it. So it's not like you're going to bombard people with announcements. But likewise, you could probably put a vacancy on the Facebook page, you know, particularly if it's for a more general position. Nothing wrong with that. Obviously, because I teach social media, make sure your profiles are updated, including your random X account that might still be online, or your YouTube channel. And every time you have an event, put the QR code up for the contact page of the school website and say, whilst you're here folks, follow us on social media on your favourite channel, and try and get people to always be following the school, because you never know how that could lead to something. Also, in your school's online or social media policy, do you encourage them, all staff members, to follow you on social media so they can like the posts? Because that's known as employee advocacy, and the algorithms love it, and it will spread the school content much further if the staff are
Does
engaging.
your QR code go to your website, say Spectrum Analysis,
Yeah.
and then there you can choose
List them all.
Insta, Face, okay.
Yeah. So I send them to the contact page of the website,
Yeah.
and then all the profiles are listed there, and you just follow whichever ones you feel comfortable with. Because a QR code only goes to one website address,
Yeah.
or if you're really smart, you can set up a QR code to send an email. So if you have people who are interested in a particular role, you can set up a QR code and it will automatically populate an email with subject and details, and that can be another way to get things to happen. Now, Educate Plus made it clear that I couldn't showcase any schools unless I had written permission, and that was just going to take me too long. But there is a hashtag out there called Behind the Blackboard, and it is from a school in New South Wales. I won't mention them, but I really like the videos. The only thing is they're a little bit long, but it gives you little bits of insights into the personalities of the people who work in the school, and I really like it. I think it's a really great initiative. And make sure all your staff even know where the policy is. Most organisations go to and say, yeah, we've got a social media policy, but nobody knows how to find it. So again, make sure you sort of remind people what it is. And of course, so many recruiters I've worked with, oh, I know how to use LinkedIn, and their own LinkedIn profile looks terrible. And so the
Ours
candidate
doesn't have one.
doesn't have a school LinkedIn profile?
No, doesn't have his own.
His own profile, yeah. So if I'm going to be interviewed by George tomorrow, I'm going to look George up.
Yeah.
And if I can't find George online, I'm going to be very suspicious whether he's a candidate or the recruiter or the decision maker. So yeah, it is important that you have one. Now, it's not what you have for breakfast, and it is your professional story, and you can choose how you write it. But I think it's very important that people can see that. Now, that doesn't mean you want to connect with every candidate, you know, if you're in that role, but people need to be able to look you up and see what you're like online. Now, in terms of careers, as I said before, make sure all your job vacancies are on their own page, and reuse any information you can. So every time I update my website, I copy, duplicate the previous page and just change it so that, you know, I'm constantly improving. And make sure you have a consistent layout for each role. And then, do you have a strategy for sharing those roles in your school newsletter? If you're in regional areas, in the local newspaper, it's very valuable in the local newspaper, and there's some other websites I'll list shortly. Do you have a main careers page? And recommend that, as I said, everybody in the organisation follows you on social media. And there was this policy that the Body Shop uses coming up to Christmas. It's called their open hiring policy. And what they do is, if Mary applied first and George applied second and Jane applied third, that would be the order in which they were processed to work at the Body Shop. And they had to answer 4 questions. Do you have the right to work in Australia? Do you like working with customers? Can you do an 8-hour shift? Can you lift 15 kilos? So despite your background, you would be given, you know, first, second, third preference, depending on when you applied for the position. And I really like this idea because I thought that just takes out a lot of bias that occurs. What they didn't mention, because I spoke to somebody from the body shop at a different event, and they said, oh yeah, we fire the ones that are duds pretty quick too. So it's not a foolproof method, but I just want you to think, what is essential that the candidate must have and what else is nice? Because a lot of skills can be learned on the job, but the cultural fit is still that really important one. So yeah, just think about that as well. Make sure any extra features your school may have is also listed. Now, if you're a school in Sydney and you're close to the city and you offer on-site car parking, do you think that would be advantageous to some applicants? You know, like they might say, this is just the deal, you know, clincher for me. So really drill down and think, what are the fabulous things our school has? Do you have a swimming pool and every Thursday night there's social fun at the pool or something? I don't know, like whatever it is. These are things that you could talk to. And if you really want to search engine optimize something, you would have a featured image on that page of the website, and you would also have one video. Google gets confused if there's more than one video, but if you just have your video inserted on that page, that's going to increase the ranking of that page of your website as well. So if you've got that careers introduction video, you could reuse it on every single jobs page, and it would still boost the ranking of that page on the interwebs. I bet you never expected to hear what I'm telling you at this session, did you? All right, so going back to this idea of some of the benefits. So again, referring to my daughter, she got the job at Oxford University Press, a new job came up, she was able to work 4 days a week instead of 5, and she told me last week, Mum, I don't care what the job is, I'm never going back to working 5 days a week. It was just so powerful for her. So if there's a way that you can juggle the working environment and enable people to work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, then this could be a significant way to attract a quality candidate. Older people want flexibility, younger people want flexibility, and obviously, you know, people busy with families want flexibility as well. And the flexibility could be things like, can I start at 7 a.m. and leave at 2:30 so that I get the morning shift and my partner gets the afternoon shift? I mean, all those kinds of things can be alternative ways to think about it. Access to transport. I believe there's some new line in Sydney that means enrolments are opening up from other suburbs because students can get here quicker and so on. So maybe that's going to be a benefit. Paid professional development, so being able to come to Educate Plus events, you know, that could be a benefit of an advancement role. Do you have a peer mentoring program? Do you offer career development? Do you sit down with the people and say, what else would you like to do in this school environment? What else could be helpful to you? Special leave days, discussion around faith and values. So for instance, if I was applying for a job at a Jewish school and I know nothing about Jewish culture, would it be okay for me to work there? You know, like have that conversation and make it really visible so people know. Can they hire the hall for their, you know, special event? That could be something that would be helpful to a staff member. And do you offer, like universities, about 15% instead of 12 or something? You get in university environments for super. So that might be an extra perk, or just salary sacrificing of people towards the latter part of their career. Now, this is a job ad I wrote for a self-managed super fund accountant. And obviously it's not related to a school role, but it gives you the kind of structure of reporting to the manager, this position offers, and then we list the professional skills, the personal skills, the technical skills, the benefits about the organisation, and we advertise this job on LinkedIn. And then what we did is we got that jobs link and we messaged different people and asked them to share the link. Now, I'm not suggesting you have to put it on LinkedIn. I'm suggesting you put the job on the school website and then go networking on LinkedIn. to try and get referrals. Because even with LinkedIn Recruiter Lite, you only get one job ad per month, which is obviously not enough for most schools. And of course, LinkedIn Recruiter is ridiculously expensive. So that's a little bit of a layout. Now you'll see that it's short dot points, not a lot of narrative, because a lot of people are looking at content on their mobile phone. So anytime you use those short dot points, people can scan things quickly. Now, if anybody was eagle-eyed, you would have picked up, we didn't mention a salary, but obviously I would have put that on there as well if it was a role I was advocating for. So hopefully you've looked at your LinkedIn school page recently, because there are a lot of extra sections to fill in on there. There's things called workplace commitments, and there's lots of boxes to fill in. So please make sure that you've filled in all the boxes on the school page. And also, if it is still a company, so some schools don't have a school profile, they have a company profile, you can change it by following that link. So please, if you look at the school as a member of LinkedIn, you'll see the word school in the actual URL. If it's not got that, you need to change it. That means that people then can list it in the education section of their LinkedIn profile, as well as the experience section. If it's not a school, they can only list it in the experience section. So it means you lose access to all your alumni and all that. So you really need to make sure it's a school. And then, what are the different paid options? So I got onto LinkedIn chat thinking, I'll try and find out the prices. And I got the runaround. What are you trying to achieve? Blah, 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 blah. And they wouldn't give me any figures. But what I can tell you is I've got the LinkedIn Careers, which is the cheapest premium account, which is $55 a month or $300 a year. Business is slightly more expensive. You can pay for a premium company page, you can pay for Recruiter Lite, or you can pay for Recruiter. But before you spend this money, because as an ex-banker, I don't want you to spend any money unless you get a return on your investment, is you say to yourself, are our candidates on LinkedIn and active on LinkedIn? Because if they're not active on LinkedIn, it doesn't matter how good the ad is and how good LinkedIn Recruiter is, they're not going to see the ad because they don't go to LinkedIn. So you've really got to ask yourself, is it worthwhile? And as I said, I'm not paid by LinkedIn, I've never worked for LinkedIn. And even if you did message them, they might not see the message in time for your recruiter's schedule. So you're going to have to allow a bit of extra time. And if they don't respond, then you're going to have to pick up the phone and say, hello, can I speak to Mary Jones? And then you speak to Mary on the phone, and then you say, I'm from such and such, and can I please send the details of a job ad that you can pass on to anyone you may know. So you're not saying directly to Mary, I want you to apply for it, please pass it on, because Mary's likely to know somebody else who could be suitable, and then you get that referral. So here's just a little screenshot of the difference. The business one offers slightly more ins and outs, but double the price per year. So just keep these in mind. Now the premium company page, which would be a premium school page, she gave me this figure. I cannot guarantee that it's the correct one because, she was answering it as if I was paying for it, and I don't believe her. So anyway, I can't see the value in a premium company page. So let me save you the money regardless. I don't think it's worth doing because those particular benefits there, are not really significant. Now, something you may not have thought of is using LinkedIn Sales Navigator instead of LinkedIn Recruiter, because it gives you still a lot of search queries that you can do on LinkedIn, and it's a bit cheaper than Recruiter Lite. Now, most recruiters will have the full LinkedIn Recruiter service. So if you don't want to dip your toe in, you could go through a recruiter and get them to do the work, and they've already paid for it. So that's another way to do it. So the only way you can find out how much it's going to be is if you speak to the sales department via business.linkedin.com. Now, let me assure you, before you've purchased it, they're happy to answer any questions you like. As soon as you've purchased it, they vanish. Nobody answers anything. So you've got to make sure every question has been answered before you pay for the service, okay? So, yeah, just be warned. All right, now I'd like to talk about Seek as well, because I think a lot of the people applying for jobs in schools would be looking on Seek. I think that's probably a fair assumption to make, because a lot of people assume jobs are advertised. Now the scary part is up to 90% of jobs are never advertised. So you're probably getting the worst of the candidates for the smallest range of jobs. So I just want you to keep that in mind, because a good quality candidate doesn't rely on a job ad. They shop themselves in and they've got a very clear idea, because the skills to do a job are very different to the skills to get a job. It's a different skill set. But if you've got the skills to get a job, you can say, look, I'd like to work in that organisation 5 k's down the road in the area I'm interested in, and I already know 3 people who work there. That's a good quality candidate. So they go looking for those roles. But it is still a destination site. You can create your own job seeker profile. I've not had one person contact me via my job seeker profile on Seek, but you can get your profile verified, and employers can create ads or use talent search, and there's lots of additional resources, and that is good. That link where they say, here's some other tools and information, there's some really good articles in there, as well as the additional market insights as well. Does anybody use Seek well and found it helpful? Yeah? Generally good? Great, excellent. Yeah, I think that's probably where you're going to get the most volume of people seeing a job ad. Any of you heard of Indeed? Yeah. So Indeed started out, it's from the US, as an aggregator of multiple jobs sites. But as time's gone on, a lot of those job sites seem to have disappeared, and we're just left with Seek, Indeed, and Jora. But it's an aggregated site, comprehensive list of trending searches, trending jobs, popular cities and popular companies, and then they've got the hiring lab there. And because they're a large organisation, they've got lots of economies of scale in there. So you might want to check, as what is available on there, or make sure that the data from Seek is being fed into Indeed. And then of course you can advertise the job on LinkedIn, and I've paid for ads for various clients, and we've not got any better quality applicants by paying for the ads, and the money adds up really quickly. And because your credit card's in there, you get a bill for $1,200 and you think, how did that happen? So please just be very careful once you've put the company credit card into LinkedIn for a job ad, that you've made sure you've turned it off and you're checking what's happening with the charging. That's still a big concern. And also don't forget that in LinkedIn, people can list themselves as open for a job or offering services. And I think a lot of people forget that services option is there. So if I went into LinkedIn and I just said I was looking for a senior business administrator, and I'll put the word college in as well rather than school, because it's more likely. So here is my search for people, but I could also click on services and it will search people's profiles, and these are people providing services in that area. So not just from their experience section, but where they've actually nominated that they provide services in that area. So it's another option for you. Now we're getting close to my most exciting functionality that I'd like to share with you. Sorry, before I do that, these are some other places that you can go or consider advertising jobs. Has anybody used this I Work for New South Wales? Or is that only government jobs? I was a bit confused when I found that one in search. But Independent Schools Australia advertises jobs, ANZIP, who were here earlier, Teachers on Net, Teaching Jobs, Jora. But the website myfuture.eu is definitely worth creating a free account on, because what it will show you is for each job, It will show you the demand in that area, the salary ranges, the professional associations related to it, and you might find a professional association where you can advertise the job directly to that cohort of people, like the geography teachers of New South Wales or something. And then, you know, you could send off the request to them with a link back to your school website. Also, if you're not a member and you're actively involved in recruitment, you could consider the RCSA as the professional organisation for recruiters. So here's my favourite little thing, which is called the Google Advanced Search. So when you do a search on LinkedIn, you're limited to the number of searches you can do, but a Google Advanced Search is unlimited. And also when you do a search on LinkedIn, it's going to reduce it to the people who are in your network, whereas the Google Advanced Search searches the entire internet and everything that's been indexed. So if we did this query in Google Advanced Search, so I just put them in quotation marks, and now we'll find out how many geography teacher people have LinkedIn profiles, which will be interesting. And we'll say the word college again. And then we go down to this site or domain box and we say linkedin.com. And I didn't test this earlier, so good luck. Let's hope it works. And we just click Advanced Search. And you beauty. So here's all these people. So what I would do is I would right click on each one and open in a new tab and open them all up in the individual tabs. And then I would look at this person and say, would this be somebody who would be interested? I could just choose connect and send the link to the school website with the job on it and say, you know, found your details online, we've got a job available, could you please pass it on to anyone who's interested, and send off the connect. And that's not going to cost you anything. And you can have 30,000 connections and you can really drill down and, you know, already have a bit of an idea about the candidate before. Now this person looks like they've travelled from overseas and isn't using LinkedIn very often, and you might say, all right, let's go on to the next candidate. But you can get sort of a bit of a quick overview and read these people's LinkedIn profiles very quickly. The other thing that I do recommend that you do, even if they don't have a verification on their LinkedIn profile. So verification is when you've had your email address verified or you've scanned your passport of the chip. I don't recommend that. But you know, if you've got the other one, it's just not opening this at all. Anyone's LinkedIn profile, you can press more and choose about this profile, and it will tell you when they joined. So that's another way to verify someone. If they joined in, you know, October 2025, it could be dodgy. This person joined in December 2022, so you can say, oh, it's pretty likely that this is a LinkedIn profile for that person. Has anybody been using Google Advanced Search prior to now? No? Good? Okay, great. The more value I can give you, the happier I am. All right, so we're getting close to the final bits. Get ready with your questions. I'll be ready to answer those. The onboarding process. Before you start, how do you contact people? Do you confirm the success in writing? Or do you make the phone call? The job I loved as a recruiter was ringing up and telling me they got the job, and they were always so excited. But do you then invite them to follow your social media profiles and click the notification bell so that they're more likely to see the school's content in their newsfeed? Make sure they read and review the school's policies, and then day one they arrive, fabulous introduction, and invite them to update their LinkedIn profile according to what you've recommended. They don't have to do it, but if they've got one, then you can have some suggestions on how we'd like you to update your LinkedIn profile now that you're part of this school, university, or college. Introduce them to the social media team so that if you've got a story, you can curate that and give it to the team in a way that they like. Add the new school email address to your LinkedIn account so that you don't accidentally create a duplicate account. The number of people who've got duplicate LinkedIn accounts is astronomical, and I've met one person who had 6 LinkedIn accounts because every time they logged in they forgot their password and just ended up creating another one. So please add your school email address to the back end of your LinkedIn profile. And then within the first month, encourage them to connect with at least 10 new colleagues. So they go around using their phone and connecting with other staff members, and invite them to endorse their colleagues a little while later for their skills. So that means just giving them a vote, or thirdly, writing them a recommendation. So if you've worked with somebody for a bit longer, that would be great, because if you worked in the same organisation, those votes will go higher. During their time in the school, college or university, encourage that ongoing engagement. LinkedIn Learning is available free of charge with a local library card, so all of you can access that at any time. I'm a huge advocate not just for learning AI skills or technical things, but personal skills. One of the best courses I did was on assertiveness, so think about that one. Or you can go to MOOCs and download something there. I know a client who went from being a database administrator, which is basically a computer geek, to a data scientist, which is a business analyst, and did that just by doing short micro credentials. And then went to look for a master's equivalent, and it was 5 years out of date. So saved himself an absolute fortune just by doing micro credentials. Invite your team members to collaborate on content. Encourage you to find and connect with other subject matter experts. So hopefully in every session at Educate Plus you connect with 3 other people. That's my motto, every event, connect with 3 people, and I can show you how to do it on the phone. And add all your memberships into licenses and certifications as well as organisations. Encourage accountability partnerships or mentoring relationships. And if you're really game, create your own name website, because I believe any person really interested in their career has it all recorded on their own website, so that people, if they Google them, their own website comes up, particularly senior leaders. Definitely worth doing. And then of course there'll come a day when it's time to leave, so make sure they update their LinkedIn profile with their final date, usually within a month of them leaving, not much longer. I know there was a TAFE college in regional Victoria which said, you know, people were still working there, you know, more than 12 months after they'd left, because they didn't want to show that they were unemployed, basically. But yeah, I'd say to update it within a month, and invite people to connect, encourage them to endorse each other and write recommendations. But this is before you walk out the door, because after you leave, you forget people's names. So it's good for you to do all of this stuff before you leave the gates. And then, of course, you don't want your correspondence coming through to your old school email address, so make sure you update your primary email address to your personal one when you leave, and then to the new one if you want to go after that. And make sure you celebrate your achievements when you leave, you know, with a nice photograph. Farewell everyone, and say thank you, that's nice. And yeah, there's a link there of what to do when you drop all this. So this is a summary. How long did I have? An hour. I've got about 8 minutes for questions, so get ready with your questions. For recruitment overall, I'm suggesting ensure all of the staff are well trained and that there's clear communication with those decision makers in this recruitment hiring process. You don't want somebody sent down to the sports oval to speak to the sports coach, and the sports coach is not there and doesn't know how to interview them, and, you know, all that kind of thing. It's not a good look. For each role, add a page to the school website with all of the details for the role, and you can put that careers video at the bottom. For each job ad, include all the essential skills and keywords that people might use to try and find that role. So you might be able to attract a candidate that hadn't been in a school before, because you've listed all the roles that would be in other roles, and that might attract more people to it. For each search, imagine where your candidates can be found or are looking for the role. So another job I did for Peter was we were looking for graduates. So we looked for the university lecturers of the subjects that we wanted the graduates from. And those university lecturers were so excited to share the jobs with all the students. It was free publicity for us, and we got 2 amazing graduates. And then of course they were so amazing, they found another job 12 months later, and that's okay. We had them in, and they were really fantastic. And they were still doing work that they were aligned with. And the benefit is, obviously the lecturers have got favourites. So, you know, you're going to get the cream of the crop if you do that. For each selection, make sure your selection processes are completed in a consistent and timely way, and that you, even when they apply for the job, encourage them to follow your school on social media. So when I first moved to Melbourne, because I was ex-banker, I got a job with the banking ombudsman. Well, no, sorry, I got second in the interview process for the banking ombudsman job. And I said, look, thank you, it was a really great experience. Please feel free to pass my details on to somebody else. And so they sent me to the telecommunications ombudsman, and I got an interview for that. But then by that stage, I was a little bit like this, and so I didn't get the job. But anyway, the point is, I got the referral onto the next one because, I maintained that thank you message, and it worked. For each new staff member, make sure they update their online presence, they connect and engage online. For each existing staff member, hopefully you'll have a nice big staff meeting and let everybody know this is what we'd like you to do. Here's our updated social media policies. And obviously anybody who's leaving, make sure that they update their presence, but remain connected in a friendly way. Isn't it nice when you leave somewhere and you had a good experience and you still see the news pop up in your feed? Gives you good vibes and encourages, you know, you should go and apply for some role at this organisation. Now, I think this should be on every Educate Plus slide that's here, is follow Educate Plus on Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Vimeo. And those numbers are for the last 3 presentations I've done, so you can see the gradual increase. And there's only 6 reviews on Facebook. So if you write a review on Facebook for Educate Plus, I'm sure people will see it. So that could be a bit of free PR for you as well. I'm a huge fan of writing reviews, because we should always be saying thank you. You know, too many people only write a review when it's bad news, but we should get into the process of saying thank you. There's no Google review to write. And there are my details. And now I'll just answer any other questions that you have. Or tell me what was most helpful. Yep.
What's good offboarding practice for an employee you sack? Sort of misconduct.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Well, I think you must always be polite and respectful. And, you know, just imagine what it's like for them, you know, because a lot of those people who are, you know, difficult people to work with, they have other issues going on. So, you know, it can be very tempting to respond in a hostile way to their behaviour. But I think I would just be focused on making sure the message is very clear that, unfortunately, as a result, you know, these are the things that we would like you to do, and, you know, just make that messaging really, really clear. How long were they with the school?
This is a hypothetical.
Oh, hypothetical, okay, right, okay. Well, yeah, just be careful, and always be polite, because if it's a bad experience, the next thing they'll be doing is knocking on the lawyer's door. So yeah, just be nice. Would be my simple answer.
When you mention offering 4-day work weeks, are you talking about people being part-time or offering the same full salary but only having to work?
Whichever is going to work, right? So some people are happy to squeeze 5 days into 4, but the true 4-day work week is literally that, 8 hours for 4 days. It's not the condensing of the 5 into 4. But, you know, it could be a way to make things work for the person, because doctors, dentists, you know, all these other appointments are almost impossible to schedule during office hours. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Someone who works 4 days a week, but part-time, I think most people would love to work 4 days a week, but it's just they need a full-time salary. That's why I was interested in whether you're working part-time or full-time, but 4 days.
Okay, so if the salary is the issue as well, obviously I do gigs, and so encourage them to set something else up that's going to generate its own revenue would be my other suggestion. And yeah, you've just got a budget. I had one client come to me and says, I've been on 350 grand a year and I'm not going to accept a job, you know, for less than 250. But he'd been working in mining and HR. And I'm saying, well, there's no HR jobs outside of mining that are going to pay you that much. So, you know, oh no, I'm entitled, rah, rah, rah. And he was from a country that's very definite about their opinions, shall I say, stereotypically. And you know what he ended up doing? Working in a cafe. And I thought, well, I think I would have taken the 180 grand a job, you know, like, anyway. So, yeah. Yep.
wondering, in your experience in this space, whether you've had much around the right to disconnect and just the impact of that, and any commentary that you've heard around that?
Yeah. Look, I remember when it first came in, of course, Victoria's about to say you're going to have the right to work from home as well, which is, you know, a pretty scary thing. I haven't heard anything directly from it. I think what it's done is it's opened up a conversation for people. And I know that one of the Educate Plus events that was run in Melbourne at Siena College, they talked about it quite clearly, and they have a policy where phones are redirected, and they had a separate social media phone that was given to somebody else so that they could go on holidays. And they also had a system set up so that any emails were forwarded to a different time, and parents were advised. So yeah, look, it's a case by case thing, but you know, how closely is it monitored? I mean, Peter and I message each other at all random times when we're fine with it. So it really depends on the audience that you're working with and how important it is. But understandably, teachers do not want to be contacted by parents at all hours of the day and night. You know, that's inappropriate. So there are some technological solutions to make sure that even if the parent does email at 1:21 a.m, that the teacher won't see it until 9 a.m. So there are some systems in place for that.
If I could ask everyone to get out their phones and
Oh, yes.
give give Sue a little follow
Yes,
while
I'll
we're
take
here.
that to that
She's got it
slide.
up on the screen. Either
Okay,
go to her
but
website
what I'd
or.
like to do is, first of all, I'm here for the next 2 days at Peter's stand, so if you've got questions, feel free to come up and ask. But this is what I'd like to encourage you to do whilst you're here at Educate Plus. So if you open your phone, the LinkedIn app, I'm not sure how many of you know how to do this, and you press inside the search box, there's some little squares that appear on the right hand side. So if you just press those squares, you'll come up with your own QR code. So then what you do is you go up to the other person and you scan theirs, and their profile will appear on your screen. You don't press the blue button, you press the 3 dots next to it, and you choose personalised invite, and then you type in Educate Plus, and then you press connect. So that way the person knows how they met you. Now, also if the person's got a follow button, you'll also see the connect button there. Now, if you've got the free LinkedIn account, you'll only get 5 personalisations a month. So don't feel like you have to pay for premium, just hit connect on the rest of them. But you know, most of the time, most of us are not going to a lot of events, so you'll be able to do that personalised option as well. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Bonnie.
Thank you.
Should we wrap up there?
Yeah.
So I want them to
Yeah.
go to lunch. I don't want to stop you from lunch.
If there's no final questions, I'd like just to please thank Sue for her time.
Oh, yeah.
Do a review in the
Oh, yes,
app
do a review
on
in the
this
app. Yes,
session.
yes, please do a review. I love feedback, so anything that's helpful or even not helpful, I love to hear about, so thank you.
On behalf of Educate Plus and all of us in the room, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Bonnie.
So yes, thank you for the reminder of the review in the app. It is lunchtime, which is out in the foyer, and our next sessions start at 2:25. Enjoy those connections that you've just made. And thank you so much, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, it's